Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of HR to CHRO. And today we have Miss Sandhya Satyan with us, who has had 20 years of experience in HR, though she doesn't look like it. And we'll talk to her about the secret. But let me introduce her first. So she started her career with HSBC, then she was with Deutsche Bank, then at Accenture, then at Goldman Sachs, then HRIS, and currently she's had people transactions at Novotech. So thank you, Sandhya. Thanks for giving us time.
Thank you so much, Amit. That was a brief introduction, I must say, and I'm quite happy in terms of how you mentioned that I don't look like that I'm someone with 20 plus years of experience. So thank you so much for that.
So can I call you Sadie, Sandhya?
I would prefer that. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so there are so many things. So first of all, I wanted to talk about the youthful looks, the secret, how do you manage work-life balance? But before that, why did you decide to start your career in HR? One, we would want to start with that. And secondly, the secrets of success. So first, why HR? Why did you decide to start your career in HR, Sandy?
Um, I'll say I think I already had this predefined thought that I always wanted to get into HR. This was something when I was studying in college, and then we had campus interviews and everything. When various lines of industries came in for as a part of the campus interview selections, I then decided that I do not want to get into any other role of a finance or various other aspects, and I would want to be in HR. The reason being, I think this is one role which will not only impact people or changing people's lives, but also the business outcomes. It's about every decision that you make, how it will either enhance employee experience or enhance the business outcomes, the performances, the culture, everything that you can be a part of. I think that's one unique role, and that quite intrigued me to get into HR.
Very nice. So, what has been the secret of success? You have been, see, only as per research, only 0.5% people they reach the CXO level. So, what has been your secret of success?
I'll say constant failure, because it's not easy to really itemize or validate your success if you haven't actually looked back at what failures have you had and how have you really turned things around, or what resilience have you built, or how determined do you get up again when you dust it off and then learn some lessons from that and then take it forward. So I wouldn't say things have come or been easy. Like I said, the only secret of success is failing every time and picking it up and understanding why it went wrong or what went wrong, decoding that situation. And for me, I'm someone who wants to understand. And I kind of go back into step one, step two, step three, step four. I want to like lay it out for me to know why did it go wrong, or where exactly did it go wrong? What should have I done better? And what can I continue to learn from that? That has constantly been the journey for me, and I'm very happy of how this has turned out to be. And if I were to let's say add additionally, I know people don't want to talk about it, and probably a year ago I also wouldn't have spoken about it as vocally, but I think now I've come to a state to know and settle with that I was with, like you called out, HSBC, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs for the longest, Natixis, which are all investment banking firms, correct? 11 years in Goldman Sachs. I've had various roles that I have managed, starting with, I was the only, I think, the three people who were taking care of entire process, which was piloting from US to India. And then eventually it was only me. And then I piloted from, I mean, I pivoted from there to various other functions that I can manage, employee lifecycle beyond that, and et cetera, et cetera. Having said that, being there like 11 years, like I said, one day I was laid off. This was during the 2023 crisis that we were going through. It did take me down quite a bit for me to like really reflect upon myself or think about what happened and understand that this is a part of the business itself, because I personally get connected to, my work, my individuality is something that I carry upon with me wherever I go. So it was a little hard for me to accept that message. And it has taken quite a bit of time for me to like learn from that and then grow beyond. I think that has taught me quite a lot. Again, resilience of knowing what my strengths are and to focus on that, and learning from what did not go right, and how do I make sure that this works in my favor, or how can I channel that energy in terms of building something better. So, going back to your question, failure has been my secret of success, if I were to put it across that way.
This is so powerful. And for all the listeners, young listeners, and other listeners watching this podcast, this is so very powerful because generally there is a stigma attached to it, and people don't like to talk about failure. And the society, the way it has evolved now after the social media evolution since 2011, life looks very hunky dory. But this is the secret of success that you are so openly talking about it. So, how did you what did you learn from these challenges, failures, and how did you come out to be a better person, a better performer? Some thoughts on that, Sandy?
Definitely. And going back to your point, right? Nowadays, people focus in terms of being everything hunky dory or giving it to them, served in a platter. Of course, it isn't that way. And I haven't come from, I think probably I can say we haven't come from that era where things are not given to you served. You really need to build everything from grounds up. If I were to talk about how did I perceive, like I said, it has taken quite a bit of time for me to really settle into that message that this is not a stigma, this is not a taboo, and this is a learning. And I'm happy that I went through this journey because, in hindsight, if I look at it, if I hadn't had that, maybe this is another stage of resilience I wouldn't have built for myself. So, how did I, turn that around for me to work in my favor? Is I had literally, I think my confidence level was, definitely down. I then consulted various people who I could talk to, my support system. I think importantly, you should recognize who your support system or your ecosystem are who are there to help you. When I say that, not necessarily your family sometimes because they don't understand the nitty-gritties of what happens in a corporate culture. You have your colleagues maybe who you can pour your heart out and then say, hey, this is what I experienced, and I just want maybe talk about it. Or someone who's your ex-colleague who came across with a similar situation who wants to share. It's like, you have this AA meetings for
Mhm.
certain things. It's
Mhm.
similar to that. I think talking about it quite often for me was definitely helpful in terms of getting that weight off my chest. Apart from that, the confidence which has gone lower, I think I started to relook at what my strengths are versus putting myself down of why this happened with me or why did this happen to me. Um, More of reflecting on what my strengths are. I know myself better. I know I have done this, which means I know I can manage this. So why am I doubting myself? So I think I need to relook at, and that, trust me, that is not one conversation that you'll have tonight and then tomorrow it's a fresh morning, all, looks good. No, you need to have that constantly, the discussion. And again, you need to have some mentor who can help you with that as well. It's not only possible for you to alone have this discussion in your mind and things will get better. You need to have, like I said, a good ecosystem. I'll say I really have been blessed also at the same time to have good mentors who I can trust and rely to have an open discussion about any situation. Again, more professionally, who have been able to guide me or mentor me or tutor me wherever needed and help me understand that, you know, I am a great asset wherever I go. I think that kind of revalidates what I have been thinking or what messaging I've been trying to do for myself, manifesting. All of these put together is how I, overcame that situation of mine. So,
Super. Very
and,
powerful.
and I think for youngsters nowadays, what I want to add is we go with what social media is showing most often, right? And everything on social media, I don't know how far it is true
Correct.
because there is no behind the scenes that they show. There is no grit. There is no, you can't show the wounds on your body, but you do definitely show that, how your before and your after was. But the between journey is something nobody shows. I think that's exactly why I want to be very vocal to state that, hey, it's not necessary if my journey has been, I don't know, I come to this position at X number of years of age or with whatever that age can be. everyone's journey is different, everyone's struggles are different, everyone's success or the way that they define and look at success is different. So I just want to put that message out there.
So very powerful, so very powerful. Sunny, see, I want to add that in today's world, because of a lot of disruptions and the way the economy is going, a lot of money being pumped by various sources. So sometimes an industry shoots up like anything, and there is huge demand of people for that industry. But the next year it falls like ed tech,
Yeah,
sometimes so many other industries also. Let's not name them. So the point is that in today's scenario, these kind of challenges,
yeah,
the frequency and the velocity has increased.
yeah.
More and more people are facing more and more such challenges.
Hmm.
So, like you said, having a support system, an ecosystem, mentors who can help you. How should young people, how should they go about creating these support systems, these mentors? How should they do that?
I'll say it's a two-way street. It's not only upon individuals to recognize who my mentors are. At the same time, every organization should have a culture of a buddy or a mentorship. As and when someone joins, right? In every organization right now, you'll have a buddy who'll help you integrate into the platform, system, process into the firm, navigate you in terms of how do you need to work around, etc. Help you in terms of aligning your role, maybe whatever that may be. You do have your mentors and you eventually build a relationship or a rapport. Not necessarily, sometimes it's very organic, sometimes it's inorganic as well, because you're assigned and you're supposed to work with them, you work with them. But sometimes it's very inorganic, and like you have both. You need to one understand, will this person be able to guide me without holding back or giving me a constructive feedback for me to grow? What does this person's intention come up with? That's one. For even the culture of the firm needs to be in such a way that the mentor or a buddy is assigned to help elevate you from the day that you've joined, because your success does not start after 1 year that you've completed. Your success starts from the day one that you get into the firm, because that's where I define what your contribution can be, how valuable you can be, in the way how I integrate you and make you part of the system. So it's important that it's a two-way street, both the company having the right process, platform, and the right mentorship offered. At the same time, individuals have choice to make whether this is my organic relationship, where let's say a manager or a peer or a buddy, and this is my inorganic, where someone has assigned them to me to help guide me. So let's see what best I can make of both the worlds. So it's not a perfect combination. There is no recipe that I can say, 2 spoons of this, 2 spoons of that. But you need to figure out as and where you go. And again, it depends on each individual's taste or choice of how you would want to be mentored. I would want someone to really be direct on my face, give me the feedback with no sugarcoating whatsoever. But maybe certain people's style is different. Give me the feedback, but make sure that you make me sit down, explain to me what the background is, take me down slow, down to the path. So each one's style is different. You need to know what works better for you.
So, would you also like to add that, or what would be your thoughts on rather than having social media relationships, having that ecosystem by actually, even at a younger level, by actually going out, meeting people, like you were saying, the AA group is so powerful,
Yeah.
things like that. So, would you suggest youngsters to actually start going out more and spend less time on social media? I mean, not have social media relationships, start having actual relationships, because they are much better support system in case you require.
I definitely believe, and I'm in that way, I'm a little old school in believing that, we need to work together as a team. When I say that, in person is more preferable for me, because I like to see how my leaders behave, how they walk the talk, how they, behave with not just their own teams, but with others. When they're presenting, what is their posture? What is their aura? When I perceive their messaging as this, and I'm able to comprehend this way, whereas my peer or my other colleague is able to perceive it another way. I'm like, oh, that's very different. This is how you saw him, and I saw him like this, and this is what I thought. that exchange of conversation, ideas, understanding the etiquette of how you need to be more professional does not come virtually. So it's important. I know in the post COVID, I would say everyone have been into a hybrid culture most often. I completely appreciate that. Not saying no or not against it, but I think a mixture needs to be there, that I need to be in office to really watch, learn. Like they say, action speaks louder than words. It's more important that I learn from my leaders when I look at them how they are, and then I know what I want to choose. And this is something that I keep speaking in, something I've learned as well in, various firms that I've worked in. When you look at leaders, it's not that when I want to idealize myself as a leader, I will take everything from one person. I will look at maybe 10, 20 different people. I'll take one quality from each one of them to know, hey, actually, I want to be like this person when I do presentations. I want to be like this person when I'm talking to my colleagues. But I want to be like this person because this person is so kind, whatever that may be. Each one comes with different quality, and that's the best way for you to ascertain what kind of leader do you want to grow as. So I'll say that's my take on the way that you should be interacting with people to really be more professional, engage, network, and build your horizon.
Very nice. Very nice. So I also want to talk about what else should a person do facing challenges like layoffs, or so is it physical activity or any tools or techniques to stay mentally fit. But before that, we when we started, so I'll come to that. But before that, another very important topic close to my heart is which you mentioned in the starting, that he chose HR also because it can impact business outcome.
Yeah,
Now, when
correct.
I started my career around 29, 30 years back, Sandy, so HR was looked at in a certain way as a support function. And that times the
Yes,
services industry was not very as large as it is today. So it was more IR and all. And
correct.
they were not HR, if I can say so. Uh,
Yes,
they were not
yes,
expected to impact the business outcomes.
agree.
But to now, where you are saying in the starting itself, so some words on that, on how youngsters today or people at any level in HR should be more business focused.
Agree. Yeah, absolutely. And I completely resonate with you because that's how even we have been doing things. We were not aware that we are making any impact in terms of business because we are not a billable function where we are bringing in any profit directly into the firm. But we are on the side of where, we are a liability in terms of the cost that we have. However, how it has changed in terms of looking at from a support function to a business driven function is again from how you utilize the data. Data is so strong and so significant for every company, be it whatever industry, be it whichever location, whatever geographical location that you're thinking of. Without data, no one can take the right decisions.
Correct.
And data is so important that it only rests with HR in terms of the planning, the workforce planning. It could be in terms of engagement statistics, it could be in terms of retention data, or why these retentions are happening or how my onboarding has been. If I don't have data speaking for me, then there is no outcome that I'm able to push my business to do. So if today I would want my sales team to perform better, I need to go to my, CEO and CHRO and say, hey, you know what? In XYZ locations, the sales has fallen down or we don't see much happening because there has been a lot of retention. So what's your focus on that? I think you need to keep pushing over here in terms of understanding these are the reasons I can give you, but I think you need to have a word with the business leaders to know what's happening there. So if I'm not giving you or connecting that data directly in terms of what's coming in as a profit, I think then I'm not doing the right job because HR is no longer a support function. I must tell you that. And everyone who still continues to think HR, what do they do? They just organize some events, they just organize some activities, and that's all they do. Sorry, if you want more work, please come to us. I'm happy to like give you much more that you would not have any time for yourself. But no, on a lighter note, having said that, it's very important. That's how we need to ensure from day one that this is my contribution on a larger picture or a bigger picture. And that connectivity, when you join as a youngster, it's not possible for you to have. That's where your mentor, your buddy, your line manager needs to be able to help you understand what your role is, how that directly impacts, and what value that you are bringing in. How will that connect to the team's performance, the company's performance, so on and so forth? If I don't help them understand, they'll think I'm just taking data from here, putting it over here. So what more am I doing? I think it's important for the leaders to help them understand and comprehend that, so that they know that this is what I need to bring to the table.
Very powerful, very powerful. Would you like to give some more examples? See, this is a very powerful example that by sharing the sales numbers and looking at the retention or attrition or engagement matrices, CEO or the business head can be advised that what is the next step they need to do to pick up the sales, to grow the sales.
Correct.
So very powerful. I mean, imagine HR telling sales that how can you increase your sales? So very powerful. Any other example you would like to share where in the past maybe or you were able to using data help business improve their performance?
I think various ways, right? Not just only for sales. I mean, that was one example that I take, but then there are various things that we are working on. Let's say a reward recognition platform. If I'm managing currently everything, let's say on a very, what do you call, monotonous way, or on emails or Excel spreadsheets, and if I don't have a platform, one, I'm not able to give you transparency of what rewards and recognition do we even have, and for you to be made aware. So if you're someone who wants to achieve, or want to be rewarded, or want to be getting an award, you should know what's there for you to like make sure that you work towards that. That's one. If I don't have a platform which explains to you the criteria, or explains to you what marketplace, let's say if we have one, whatever that may be, engagement activity, if I don't have the right engagement activity, all work no fun is also not good. Only fun no work is also not good. There should be a right balance that we're able to bring along. Having said that, you really need to know what changes that you want to do, which can, one, enhance employee experience. At the same time, bringing in that addition should help enable your productivity, because the firm is giving me XYZ rewards and recognitions, which means I need to showcase my talent to the best potential possible, which means my productivity goes higher so that I can get that reward, right? So it's both, like I said, a two-way street. If we want them to really achieve in every role that they are hired into, we also need to make sure that the time that they're spending here is made really valuable by providing the resources and platforms that they need to achieve that. So
Very powerful, Sandy. So, coming back to you mentioned balance. So, it has to be balanced. What about work-life balance? And like you were talking about how to keep yourself physically and mentally fitter, because these kind of the frequency of challenges is increasing day by day as the world is becoming more and more complex. So, some thoughts on that.
I am a big believer on work-life balance. I definitely walk the talk while I say that. Again, 10 years before, or maybe 11 years before, if you would have asked me this, I definitely had no work-life balance at all. We were working for 12, 14 hours, even weekends. I can't count how many weekends I have worked, because it was almost every weekend. Um, but I think during that journey, being from a fitter me, I went to a heavier me in terms of, physically, mentally. I had nothing that I was doing apart from work. Of course, I was burning, at both ends. And kind of my health was also deteriorating. That kind of pushed me that I need to be doing something. And I heard someone saying that, hey, you know what, running helps. I did so much of running, and this is where I am in best shape of my life and all of that. So I thought, okay, let me give it a try. What's there? So I just thought I'll just go, and then I spoke to somebody who gave me a coach details, and he didn't even charge me for 1 month. He said, no, you just, let's see what you do. I started with 100 meters running. He told, just run and show me. And I just started 100 meters, and I'm like, I was huffing, puffing. I was trying to catch my breath, because I couldn't even do 100 meters, at a stretch. And I was like, oh my God, this is really bad. I am hardly, 30 years old, and I can't be doing this. And it looks like as if I'm like a 60, 80-year-old. So I think that's when it kind of struck me. But it wasn't that I fell in love with running. It was more of, I need to do something to be physically fit. So let me just do something. But eventually, looking at, okay, today I'm able to run up until this pole, tomorrow until that gate. And from that gate, let me run to the next gate. So, like this, I built that endurance to be able to run farther without stopping. And I kept a goal every day that, okay, you know what? Today I'm not going to stop until this section. So that eventually grew from 100 meters to a 1 kilometer, eventually a 5, then a 10, then 42, which is the maximum, which is my full marathon. And not just that, I was really enjoying it in such a way that for me, when I set out for my run, I get fresh oxygen into my brain. So scientifically, it's helping me, activate my neurons, feeling good about it. So all my dopamine is working well. I come back to work, I'm recharged. I am, able to innovate, creative, thinking, that's all activated for me. So it's working well for me that I'm able to achieve what I want to achieve from my career perspective, because I'm able to give time for myself, which I enjoy doing it. So for me, it's important that I have something outside of work which fuels me in terms of bringing my best at my work. And I say this to my team, no matter what. For me, running is what my passion is. That's where my calling was. For you, if it is dancing or yoga or singing or maybe just reading a book, whatever that may be, reading a book, yes, not physical activity, but do something which kind of keeps you going for longer. Look at longevity. At the same time, take some me time, nothing to do related to work, don't have to go study, read anything, but look at what you can do to uh, take the stress off, maybe went off, and then come back, log in again, or maybe take care of things that you had left. I do this quite regularly. I go to my gym almost 4 5 days a week. I have my runs almost 3 to 4 days a week. So almost 6 to 7 days I am working out. If not, the one day would be a recovery. But I'm not skipping any of them because I'm reprioritizing on something else. I would relook at how I want to prioritize and reprioritize, of course, depending on what's important for that day. But I will make sure that my mental peace and my physical fitness are both aligned appropriately, because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. I want to be able to run longer. Does not matter what time I finish it, but yes, that's the goal. So I'm a big believer on that, and I definitely encourage everyone, not just only the youngsters, even the millennium, Gen Z, Gen X, everybody, or even baby boomers, because I do push my parents as well to please go get 5,000 steps, 10,000 steps, whatever possible. I really push them hard as well that you need to work out. So yeah.
Oh, very powerful. This is so powerful that have that me time so that you remove your stress. And I want to talk to you about that. What is it that works? Is it the routine? Is it the resilience? Is it the discipline? And having those small goals. But one misnomer, see, generally people say that they don't have time to exercise. Now you are exercising 6 days a week and working throughout the week. Is it true that when you exercise, for example, you're like you were saying, creativity and all those things, your ability to do more in lesser time improves, so that you actually start finishing 8 hours of work in 7 hours maybe, and have that additional 1 hour to maybe exercise, half an hour for exercise, and half an hour additionally you are having for other things. So exercising actually creates more time. So would you agree to that?
I will partially agree to that. I'm not saying your 8 hours of work will become 7 hours because you're working out and your speed improves, but I'll say you will find smarter ways of doing the same 8 hours of work. It can take 8 hours, but you will be so efficient and you will have that satisfactory or the content that end of the day. These were the things that I was able to contribute today. And it's about things not going in a monotonous way. You know what, today I was able to bring in something new to the table. I was able to creatively think about this process being done in a different way, or I was having this problem for a very long time and I found an innovative solution which could help minimize our manual effort or bring in more efficiency. So it's not about reducing the work time, not necessarily. That could be one bit of it, but I think you will think about it quite differently, because you do not have to worry about enough oxygen to your brain. That's precisely. And I think scientifically it's been proven as well. The morning oxygen, that when it goes to your brain, all your neurons get activated and you will be able to think better. And precisely what I see as well, even now when I go out for my runs, I see so many, I would probably say, baby boomers who are youngsters. They have so much energy, they have so much discipline. I know you mentioned this. There is no, a permutation and combination. It's your discipline. You definitely need that. If you want to see yourself better, you need to have a discipline for yourself. Second, you need to prioritize. I know everyone says, I don't have time for it. If you don't have time for yourself, what else will you take time for? You need to make time for yourself. I know everyone are busy with their work, with their children, with parents, family, in-laws, but if you need to find your time for yourself, there is no alternative. And that's a I don't know, a no-brainer for me, that finding time for myself is absolutely needed and a must. And discipline only helps me push myself for that. They say that 21 days it takes for us to get into a habit. So until follow that discipline, initial days will be a little bit of struggle, but once I fall into that discipline and make sure this is my routine, it goes pretty well. You don't have to then entirely work up to build that routine, because it's now set. Now it goes in a flow. So until you get into a flow of that happening quite organically, you need to struggle a little bit from your comfort zone.
Very powerful, having being in the flow. So, see, another thing, see, we use brain rewiring techniques to remove blockages which top performers and top leaders, big leaders, and teams have. Sometimes I see there is lesser number of girls at the top level, and maybe because there are some blockages which girls have, that they are not good enough to reach the top, and that's why maybe they don't push, or there are other blockages that I cannot achieve this because I have so many other responsibilities. So as a girl, as a top achiever, how would you like to address this issue? And
Oh,
what
this
would
is
be
one
your
of my favorite.
message to other girls?
Oh, this is my one of my favorite, to all the women out there. Um, and I'm saying this again from my experience. Not that, this is something I'm doing it for a very long time or out from the womb or nothing. No, I've learned it the hard way, trust me. Um, I think sky is the limit for any individual, whether if it's women or men. You only draw the line dependent on various circumstantial, way of living, that you have your XYZ priorities, so you can't scale up to it. So I do not want to ask more, because if I ask more, I won't be able to dedicate that much time because I have to take care of my family, all that. I think there are many women who are capable, but because of not putting themselves first, I don't see that many people on the top. And I see this, I have seen many women in my era, and I have so many leaders I can look up to literally and learn from them. And I've seen that. And like I said, right, I'm someone who looks at people and then learns from them. I have so many examples that I can share about my senior leadership that I've learned from. I think it really is, again, prioritizing yourself. Do not consider any of these, your family commitments, or whatever various commitments that you have, pulling you down. You need to focus on yourself. If you think that you need to put yourself first, do not hesitate and do not be guilty. And I know that we do that,
Yes.
right?
So we were talking about how women should not feel guilty about
We
taking up additional responsibilities, about
Yes.
getting ahead.
Yeah, no, so I have seen even myself at times that, when I take certain decisions of, considering my work as a priority and not maybe family, I do feel guilty at times, but then I'll go back thinking, why am I thinking about this guilty? It's not that the other gender will think in the same way. So why am I thinking about myself? Again, it could be because of the way that we've been, brought up in a very different world, and now we are changing that. And I think we are guilty that, we are trying to climb up that rope, take that position, or consider ourselves as priority. It's something new for women. I agree. But at the same time, I say this, if I can do it, so can all of you. Uh, Put yourselves first. Yes, I know you feel guilty, but shake that off and know what you want to do. If you think that this will help you and grow your career, unapologetically, please take that step to, make every decision possible to reprioritize the rest of the things. And probably also another additional thing is communication. What happens is we want to take something more, but we are hesitant to communicate that to our family, saying that, hey, you know what, this time is going to be a little hectic for me, but I would want you to play this role of taking care of, XYZ things so that I can be relieved from that. I think we don't have that conversation, which kind of becomes that, assumptions play a, quite bigger role in that situation. So I think having an open communication with your family where you have your support system, of course, they need to know what you are getting into, and making sure that you are reprioritizing the rest of the things wherever you can, or taking help from other people who can offer you, so you're able to take that additional role or enhance your scope of work, or uh, do some certification to get into the next line, whatever that may be.
So that support system, how can so we talked about resilience and getting out, moving from failure, challenges with the help of support system, but even for day-to-day life, how
Hmm.
can not only, I mean, maybe men because they already have that kind of a support system, they have that group of friends where they share things. How can women in a working environment and how can they create that support system which can help them in the time of when they need to stretch?
Various roles that they need to consider, right? I mean, depending on what support system do they have around them. If there are people who have traveled or away from home and they are here only alone, then they'll have to reconsider in terms of maybe having a conversation with their best friends over a call. But for me, my family, or myself, I've been born brought up here, I have my entire family here. If I need to have a conversation, it's my husband that I talk to, or let's say my sister is, far away, I'll have a conversation with her, or my best friend who's not necessarily next to me, but I'll have a call with them. I then take all these inputs, but the decision will be mine. I won't put that decision on them. But if I want really an expert to advise on that, there are career coaches. I will consider them as well, that, hey, this is what I want to do. This is a conversation I've had. These are the three people who advised maybe three different things. What do you think I should be doing? Or can you maybe show, give your insights about it? Then eventually I'll probably be able to take a better decision, having all the, inputs gathered, I would say. So you will have to identify who that support system is for you, whether if it's a colleague, if it's a friend, if it's a family, or if it's your spouse, your children, your grandparents, whoever that may be. Identify who can relate to you, who can understand you, and who can maybe guide you. If you think, like I said, in many of the families, if the family is not able to understand the corporate culture, or the what do I say, the politics of a corporate culture, to be able to advise you better, then consider a colleague or an ex-colleague who you can be open with, and yet they won't take advantage of the situation, or guide you incorrectly just because they want to get in there before you do. So probably look at who you want to share that with, or get the right guidance. So you need to know, you need to really think about before you exercise and form that ecosystem for yourself of whom you're getting in, in your hands with. So um, it definitely is not something I can say, one, two, three things, you do this and you will get to know, or who that person is. It again is dependent on every individual, and how relationships are formed and how stronger they are, that I can open up with either of them.
Very, very relevant points, Sadie. See, also, see, apart from taking up additional responsibilities, letting go of that laid back thing, another thing which hurts maybe career sometimes is not being outspoken or not being assertive or not pointing out mistakes of others, thinking that maybe I should keep quiet. Why do I need to But then all this comes into the notice of the senior stakeholders that yes, this person is genuine and serious about the organization's benefit. So why not, or how not to hold one back in terms of day-to-day work, not only taking additional responsibility, but even team meetings, or your thoughts on that?
No, definitely that's a great question, and something that everyone falls into on how to go about it. This is something that I have heard from someone, and I'll probably utilize this, right? Between 0 to 5 years of experience, it is mentioned that you close your eyes and ears and you just continue to work. Not eyes and ears, sorry, your mouth and your ears. You shut your mouth and your ears and you continue to work, which means just learning is what you need to focus on, not speaking about somebody or talking about somebody or hearing gossips or anything. You need to focus on learning. Between 5 to 10 years of experience is where you would become a subject matter expert of what you have learned in the first 5 years, where you would now be contributing, adding value, whatever learning has been there, you're making use of that. Between 10 to 15 is where you start creating impact, efficiencies, headcount savings, turnover, blah, 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 whatever that can be. And beyond 15 years is where you would be influencing decision making, right? This is where I was talking about. I have the data. Am I looking at the right metrics? What decisions can I influence to my senior leadership in terms of looking at this differently? Or where should the focus be? Or what switch should we be able to make? That's how I would stage that in terms of, what should they be doing or what one should be doing. And that's precisely what we have all done as well. I think there was another question that you asked in terms of
15 plus women with 15 plus experience, sometimes they hold themselves back in
correct.
dealing with
Yeah, yeah. I think that is a part where the now most of the firms have, many training programs in terms of presentation skills, communication. And when we say communication, most often people think that it's about correcting your grammar or speaking fluently, without having to stumble upon anything. No, that's not. Communication means much, much more than that. And trust me, even now, I continue to learn. It's not that I'm there where I want to be. When it comes to presentation communication, you really need to know what to be said and when or where to be said that. Like you mentioned, let's say there's some town hall that's happening. If I want to give a feedback, I wouldn't just get up and give a feedback. I'll probably take that person into the room, have a conversation. Hey, this is what I observed. What happened? Can you explain to me? Maybe you had a different perspective. I want to hear it out. If I found that to be not in the right sense, I'll probably share feedback. This is what you should be doing. But if it's more of an observation and I want to, share my thoughts, I shouldn't be holding my thoughts in letting others know, hey, to what we have been discussing, I think this also adds value. Why don't we look at it from this perspective? Sharing ideas or, helping business move in the direction that we want to, or bringing in more efficiency or whatsoever, that shouldn't be a discussion that should happen in a closed room. That should be, as free as your democracy. But anything which is, a one-to-one discussion or more of, sharing my opinions and thoughts, and if I think that might create some controversy, then probably yes, that's a closed room discussion. So exactly knowing what to speak, where, and how do I position that is much, much more important for every leader. If not, then I can just go yell at everybody, hey, why this went wrong, and tomorrow I would not have anyone in my team. So even if there is a feedback, how do I share that feedback? And everyone have their own different way of comprehending and implementing that feedback. So if we see that that's not been helpful and they're not able to take it in the right way, then probably you need to understand what is the way that they understand and work in that similar path. So that's my 2 cents on in terms of not holding your back, not being hesitant, and at least knowing where you need to be hesitant, and you can share your ideas openly.
very nice, Sandy. So, see, talking about communication, would you say that one has to be as serious about any communication, any pitching, just like a salesperson does it, or would you agree that every pitch is a sales pitch?
Oh, I think I mentioned this in, yeah, I believe In the recent months, I'll say I've been reading quite a bit, and I go back to new things that I would want to learn and then ideate them and probably implement them in my work style as well. So every call, every conversation is a sales pitch. If you want your feedback to be taken in the right sense, that's a sales pitch. If you want your idea or your data to be taken in the right focus and significance, then that's a sales pitch. If you want to influence a new vendor, partner, or decision making, or I don't know, new engagements, then that's a sales pitch. If I am giving a speech or a town hall or having this discussion, that's a sales pitch. So people think only sales, team should be doing the sales pitch, but no. Whether if it is HR, whether if it is finance, whether if it is internal audit, compliance, whatever may be your role, you need to grow. And in that 1 2 minutes or 30 minutes conversation, you are showing what you are. If I need to be impacted, influenced, and buy the product or idea or a new thought, you need to influence me, and that only happens through the right sales pitch. So every conversation is a sales pitch.
Very nice and very relevant, Sandy. So we have gone beyond the allotted time that we had agreed. So one final word to
Sure.
especially the young listeners watching this, what would be your advice, one advice to them, apart from whatever you have shared?
Well, I think I would say do not look at everything like the way you would see social media to scroll the reels. What you see in front of the camera and what happens behind the scenes are not the same. So don't go with that as an expectation and then come with, oh, this is what I see and that's what I should get. Everything happens with what you give and what you take. If I am committed and if I want to deliver and if I want to scale and if I want to level up, this is the plan that I want to set for myself, and have that open discussion. Do not have an assumption in your head that I will do this one project very well and I would be promoted. And then you have a discussion, oh, I was expecting you to promote me, but it didn't happen. That's only because you haven't expressed your expectation quite openly, or that discussion did not ever happen. So I will say don't look at what's there, or when people come and say multiple times that I got promoted, I got this much, I got that much, do not compare or validate your journey with them.
Correct.
Everyone's journey is different. I know people who have been made CEO in their 20s, in their early 30s. I wouldn't want to compare myself with them because I know the struggles that I have been through, and their struggles are different from mine. So for me, I am happy from what learning that has helped me to come here, rather than comparing my journey with somebody else and revalidating, oh, what have I achieved so far. So I'll say that because people, I think so far, if I look at it, they compare and then say, oh, this is what I'm doing, this is where I am at, I don't think this is helping me, etc. So that definitely is one thing that I would want to focus on.
Very nice, very powerful. And this has been one interaction where so openly we have talked about failure, learning from failure, resilience. So it's a very powerful message that we have had a discussion privilege to discuss today, Sandy. So on that note, thanks for giving us time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit. This absolutely is a conversation that I have enjoyed because I didn't have to prepare any agenda specifically to talk about it. It's just talking about myself. And I think I have only been mentioning things that I have been doing. So there's nothing, I'll say, a edited version of this that they can anyway go with. It's a raw version of what they're watching. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Really appreciate it and honored to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.